Hello and welcome to another rendition of the Druzhinacast. I am Mike,
I'm Tom. What's up?
I'm Rob.
and today we have with us our good friend Nicholas. What's up, Nick?
Hey, how's it going?
Good enough. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are y'all doing?
I'm feeling fancy free. I did a bunch of yard work today, so I'm actually really tired, but I'm
Nice.
excited to do this, and I'm gonna suck this little puppy down.
Also-
and it's gonna make me right as rain.
I'm glad you're feeling better, and welcome back.
Yeah, I wasn't on the last episode, if anyone remembers or cares. I had like a weird skin thing happen, and I had a surgery for them to take a sample and get a biopsy on it and whatever. It got infected, and I had to take an antibiotic, and it just fucking destroyed me for like several days, almost a week. But I'm feeling better now, and I'm all right. And I don't have skin cancer. It turned out to be eczema.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, we're all doing good. Let's get the chat right away before we get to Nick. Little pre-stream love from Vinderberg from Wild Sage, also known as Mook, also known as one of the swaggiest kits that we have so far with the Vinderfolk. From Merrick, who is playing Zvonimir in Vassal. Greetings, fellow Vassals. The classic Baba Booey from Astrolo Magi, and that's Rob. Vassalites, Vassal folk.
Vassalite? I kind of like Vassalite, dude.
I mean, what we just?
I don't think it'll
that sounds
stick,
like-
but I like
that sounds
it.
like a
I
cult, man.
remember saying at the beginning that the game is called Vassal and people that play it are called vassals.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I mean, before we get started, the four people you see on the screen are your admin for Vassal. We are the four that it started with, mostly Nick and Rob, and then I kind of snuck in, and then eventually I was like, let's bring Tom in, and with the four of us, we've kind of developed what Vassal is at this point, along with help from a bunch of different people who are not only doing their own thing to make their own personal stuff with their characters happen in Vassal, but we're also using people to kind of bounce ideas back and forth and make that happen. So if you ever have questions to ask, the four of us are the people you should be asking most likely. So let's do what we always do when we have a guest, and let's talk to them about who they are and how they got into LARP and what their LARP experience has been so far. So Nick, wherever you want to start, because we know everything we need to know about you, but the people want to know. The people want to know about Pate. They see those pictures of you and they're like, holy shit. It is still to this day the most liked photo on our Instagram is the picture of you. It's so good.
Yeah, it means I'm doing something right, at least. So, don't even know where to begin with this. I guess my experience with LARP dates all the way back to would have been about 2013, 2014, where Rob was just posting nonstop on Facebook about coming out to Southwestern Michigan College to go play Dagger here. So I contacted him one day and I was like, hey, I want to go swing swords. And he was like, great, come out and do this. And that's where it all started for me, was getting into Dag. And my kit today compared to my kit when I first started, because I did basically what everyone who starts in LARP did. Basic black tunic, black leather armor at one point. Thought I was the coolest looking person ever. You know, all that good stuff.
The classic Dagger here
The
experience.
classic Dagger here experience. Then starting to put more effort into my kits came with actually it was when with Rob, when I bought his segmentada off him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, I'm gonna be a dwarf in Dagger here with segmentada.
with black leather Roman armor.
Yep. So that's how that went. That phase didn't last for a long time.
I think we all had our like little, like I saw the King Arthur movie with Clive Owen, and I made pauldrons that had chainmail sleeves hanging off of them because I was like, that looks cool. Then you make them and wear them. It's like, these are
That's
so
awesome.
stupid.
I secretly love that though.
So yeah, then I then I became a Viking for a little bit. That was probably the most recent one. Then while we did the Varangian Guard look-alike with Sudvakt. And after that point is when we started kind of transitioning to like 14th, 15th century with the Knights Errant. That's where my basic kit for that when we transitioned was just the classic white t-shirt and hose. And then it was a case of during last year when we did nothing, had money, had free time, was extremely bored, and just started putting together more and more kit. So, and that's where I'm at today. The entire point of Vassal was to try to get more role-playing experience for me out of the Larp, because that's what I felt was lacking in most of my experiences with buffers.
Right.
Especially that, because I went to Ragnarok a couple years. There were a couple cool things that happened during those times. Like
I remember you came with. Did you and Ash come together?
Yep, both years I went, it was me and Ash.
And I feel like I rarely ran into you two, but when I did, I think we were always pretty blitzed, and it was always at night. So I was like, at least we're having fun.
Yeah,
so I think I remember having the conversation that's like, so you realize like this is really sweet, but it's still just like not like it's not LARP.
Yeah,
like it's just not enough. But it is a good time, and it's fun, and you see a lot of people you care about. So it's like, you know, I hear they are going to bring Rag back for 2022.
The turning point with me where I was like, all right, I need something else, was actually with Pass of the Crown Bear, because I was at the first Pass of the Crown Bear acting as Ash's herald.
Nice.
So
yeah, there's all those little micro communities inside Dagger here that like do try, and they kind of set the example for like, if you want this stuff to happen here, you have to make your own magic happen. You know, the game isn't going to do it for you. And then we were like, well, fuck it, we'll just go make a game that does. Cool. So right now your kit is your Franz Pape of Bern, which is a county in Austenburg.
Kurzenstrad, yeah.
Kurzenstrad, yep.
And so how much involvement have you had personally with Rob and Tom developing the stuff for Bern?
So the basics of Bern was pretty much my creation, with my idea of when I made the character, I wanted to create a character that had potential to grow in the game without being at the top, because I want all the pomp and circumstance to go along with my character. I want everything to happen. So Bern was the, hey, what if my character was just evicted, like in a violent coup? And from that point is where Rob was able to start putting together more and more the lore, until eventually it turned into basically Velen, where it's just war-torn country, like county all the time, but it produces the best fighting knights in all of Kurzenstrad.
Yeah. And I was gonna say that Velen analogy is really good. That's the one I usually tell people. So I'm like, if you've played Witcher 3, like it's the Velen of Kurzenstrad.
I was gonna say I didn't know what that was, but I'm assuming it's a Witcher thing.
Yeah,
it's like the one thing I don't know anything about.
It's a territory that like during the Witcher 3, it's like super war torn. There's like blatant banditry like everywhere. There's a character who's like pretty prominent in the story named the Bloody Baron, who's kind of, just like a dude who carved out his own thing in the chaos.
Was my favorite. That was my favorite part of the game, I think.
Yeah, Bloody Baron's such a good part of that game. But it's like that really is kind of what like encapsulates it. And then the idea that we had too with his capital, Bramzig, it's almost kind of like the Novigrad, where it's like then in the midst of it all, you have this one city that's like managed to kind of keep its shit together and stay safe. And so kind of that same idea of the theme or the imagery is pretty like, if that's what you have in your head when you think about it, like you're on the right track.
So how does Franz end up in league with Dimitri? Because your characters from the get-go are going to be close.
So Franz and Dimitri, their grandfathers both worked very closely together. So there was already that relationship ship there to start with. But what happened with specifically Franz is when he left Bronzig, he went to Ostrenburg, seeking allies, because his entire thing is he wants to basically just go back, march into Bronzig, and kill everyone in there. Like literally just kill everyone, start over fresh. So that was kind of the connection between them, is going to Ostrenburg and seeking allies. Whereas Dimitri was like, hey, you're a good fighter. I need good fighters. Help me keep my territory and start expanding, and I'll help you retake Bern.
Okay. So it's very much a sort of I help you, you help me situation. There's no like
that was it in the, I think, beginning of the relationship with them, but over, because it's been quite a period of time since they first met in terms of the lore.
Just in terms of the lore, it's like, I think initial contact was like over a decade ago.
Yeah, it was
so
like
so by the time the game
starts, you've known each other for a long time.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And I mean, with the history with your grandfathers knowing each other, what was their relationship? Was there like a campaign they were a part of, or?
Yeah, so that's in our like big Kurzenstadt history document. That's in the first or second section. Is it's because Dimitri's grandfather was the guy who declared independence from the empire. He was the empire's duke. So when he declared independence, he became like the first new king of Kurzenstadt. And when the Count of Nurnik turns against him to try and take the kingdom, I guess Johannes Pape was one of his like really loyal vassals. Then the thing though is that in the big battle, Dimitri's grandfather gets killed. And then that's when like basically it all goes to shit.
Johannes Pape is such a good
dude. I know, I love that. Johannes. I'm like, that's such a great name.
I love that so much.
But Franz's story is very much like Black Douglas for sure.
Okay.
Like that. Cool. That's really like the vibe of it. Is like his family was in control, and then this guy basically betrayed them, like backed by the Count of Nurnik, and like killed his whole family. And so Nick's character is like, one day I'm gonna go back. Dimitri's gonna back me and give me the soldiers I need, and I'm gonna go back and take it for myself.
That's awesome. I always, every time I see that picture, I'm like, it makes me really want to, the picture of like you and your kit with the crossbone stuff. I'm always like, that seeing just somebody in a kit like that really wants me to make a tournament happen. Like that's what that kit like screams to me, like with all like the heraldry with the coat and stuff. Like it's just badass. Do you have like a plate underneath that you're wearing, or?
Oh yeah, I've got a full cuirass underneath that.
So that's like, do you consider that finished? Is there anything else you're planning for that?
I don't think I'm ever going to be content to consider any kit fully finished.
I don't think any of us are. Yeah.
What I specifically need for that kit is I want to replace the helmet that I have, because the person I ordered it from, regrettably, the pictures he showed me and the design, that the finished product didn't match up. So I need to replace my helmet, and I need to get a set of arms, because the only armor that I actually have is a Spalders.
Okay. Are you going to do a Bever, Bever, whatever?
That
is the eventual plan, is to get a Salad and Bever combo.
Tight. Yeah, you're going to look so like tanky. It's awesome.
I was going to say, because Nick has the helmet he's talking to, I think that's like the one that you could use for SCA, right?
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, he's like the bar grill. But yeah, so the guy like didn't make the bar grill detachable, which is what sucks.
The bar grill is welded onto that helmet.
Yeah, it's welded. Then,
even weirder, the way that the helmet stays closed, because you can lift up the visor on that, it's like attached to the bar grill. So like I can't just remove the bar grill without having to completely remodify that helmet.
Yeah, so the one he's wearing in that picture is like his old crappy one that I think, isn't the visor broken on it?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, so we were just like, dude, this just looks better for a picture. We're just gonna throw this on, and like, so yeah, that's not even like its actual helmet, but
I mean, I'm the more that we do like our little our little short films and our photo shoots, the more I'm like, a lot of the Vassal story is going to get told through these.
Yeah,
and I mean,
it's really shaping out that way.
Because of that, and the nature of how that works, it's like it doesn't always have to be functional stuff because you're essentially just making a movie. So I mean, I'm less worried about. Sometimes I even see like swords that are like, that looks exactly like what I want, but it's like an actual like steel sword. I'm just like, I guess I could use it in like little movies and stuff if I wanted to do that.
It's like your prop.
Yeah. But sweet, man. Yeah, I'm very excited to see what Franz is capable of in the world of Vassal. I mean, what do you see Franz doing other than just like being at Dimitri's side with whatever Dimitri's trying to get done? Is there like personal things you're trying to get like taken care of, or
kind of the way that I see Franz is like Dimitri is being held up. I wouldn't say as the figurehead, like he is in charge, but it's a case of making Dimitri look good. So Franz is taking care of all of the stuff in the background that if it got out would be like, well, Dimitri ordered this assassination, whereas it's a case of just like Franz killed this guy.
Okay.
So just kind of taking care of all of the stuff in the background.
Because
I'd say a lot of it that Dimitri doesn't actually probably know about either.
Yeah. So there is like, because Dimitri isn't necessarily like seated in a confirmed way as somebody in charge in Kurzenstrad. Pretty much just Ostrenburg, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Dimitri's only technically the Count of Ostrenburg, which I had reclaimed from the guy who took it from my family. So it's like, to some people, it may even still be viewed as kind of like, I don't know if I would say illegitimate, because I think there's probably a good argument that I would say I'd be like the legitimate person, but it's contested, I guess we should say.
Or like self-appointed.
Yeah, because so it's the Count of Trant who takes it, and then Dimitri takes it back. But Trant isn't defeated, though. So it's like they could easily just march an army back in one day, and it's like, all right, give it up. Like, we're going to take you out and put our old guy back in charge or something. So it's still
Franz,
dangerous. It's still dangerous.
So Franz is kind of putting efforts into image and stuff and making sure that Dimitri looks as
kind of image and securing Dimitri's power, because the more secure that Dimitri is, the easier it will be to retake Bern.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm into it.
It's a good little dynamic.
Yeah. Do either of you guys have any questions for Franz and is there any digging that you want to do?
I'm just stoked to literally be at an event to where like whatever the means are for our characters to meet each other for the first time in the game, and like for me to like walk up, and I don't know if Dimitri's going to be like in a chair or where you guys are going to be, but just to see you two side by side and just get that feeling of like, now granted I know who you are as a person, but like as a player and as a character to be like, whoa, like who are these guys? You know what I mean? Like that'll be a very cool thing.
I mean, are we not getting to a point where we probably should start talking about what is happening at the first event? What situations are people walking into? Not just for the players, but so that we know like what are we getting our characters into, and by proxy the people that are connected and surrounding us. Because I mean, I know that I still think that the most interesting thing and the most viable thing, just because most people that are playing in the game seem to be focused in the Kurzenstrad area, it looks to me like the very first story we should tell is like this warring between the counties, which like leaves me in a position of like, I know why Ingvar is going out there. I don't know what Ingvar is going to try to do once he gets there. But with you guys understanding all of your motivations, and then the goods and bads and the ups and downs you have with other characters in that area would help to like sort of push things in certain directions or lead people in certain ways. I mean, because I'm starting to have conversations with people who want to figure out who their character is and what they're doing, like at the first event. I've had people contact me saying they want to be a Druzhina, and I'm kind of responding to them with, do you want to be a Druzhina from the start, or do you want to tell the story of how you become one?
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, I still kind of need to fill in, like, well, if I'm all the way in Kurzenstrad, it's like, are you seeking me out? Do you hear about what happens? Do you know some sort of half truths about it, and you seek to help me set it all straight? Like, so that's all like stuff that needs to get figured out. But I don't want it to be like solely focused on me, my story, when where we're gonna be is the setting for what's probably the most important to you guys from the get-go. You know? So I think
Right.
we might, I don't know, we have to do it on the cast, obviously, unless you guys want to, but I think we need to start probably having discussions about like what are the things that are happening when we host this first event finally? Like, what are the goings on that people can kind of experience? Merrick wants to know about that crossbow.
Don't we all want to know?
Yeah, so I actually got that from Nick Springman. Basically, when I ordered it a while back, I was like, I want you to make me the historically accurate crossbow that you can for LARP. So it's a roller nut. I believe he made the metal trigger system, and it shoots decently.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. Nick's let me shoot it before, and it's sweet.
So he machined all the parts himself, or?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. And
yeah,
I
it's
know
got a really
he's
good range too.
He's joining the game as well, is he not?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Do you know where or what capacity or what
His
what
character, I think his name is Lorenzo. He's from Genoa, so he's going to be an Italian character.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
And yeah, I think he's like a mercenary is probably what he's doing.
I
but-
want to make a Venoese character so bad just so I could have an excuse to buy one of those Doge swords from Fake Steel.
Dude, right.
Be the Doge.
They're so cool. They're so fucking cool. Well, hell yeah. What else can we get into? Because we're only like a half hour deep.
Well, I was going to say, we haven't shown it yet. Can we show the Franz video?
Didn't we show it? I
didn't think we showed it on the show.
Oh, I thought we did. I'm down to watch it again.
I don't think we did.
What did we
No,
watch?
because I posted it, and then the next episode we did where we showed a video was Rabbi.
You're right.
Yeah, we didn't.
It actually
Just,
just just the end there. It's been looping, but
Real quick answering Merrick. Not entirely sure on what the weight is. I haven't tested that out yet. It feels from where we've tested, like just shooting each other, probably around 25 to 30 pound crossbow.
Yeah, I was gonna say we were shooting each other, and it has like decent range. And unless you're like literally standing in front of it, like it doesn't.
What are you shooting out of it? Like
doesn't
dagger
hurt.
gear bolts?
Yeah.
which that's something we haven't even like touched on. But I would think like, what else would we do?
Okay.
And as I'm
Yeah.
saying to Merrick's question, it's kind of like until we know for sure which projectile we're using, it's hard to say what our limit for draw weight is going to be.
Yeah.
Because that will differ based on projectile.
Mm-hmm.
And
I really-
LARP guns, I don't know. Tom's got to answer that.
I mean, there's gonna be a lot from now till the game actually opens. There's probably gonna be a lot of development stuff.
Mhm.
So I mean, even as far as the gun stuff, like I'm kind of like gonna be pushing it towards these newer people that I've gotten in contact with. So I feel like I'm gonna be a little bit less involved with development. Plus, like I just need to take a break from the guns and just
Oh,
work
yeah,
on
I
other
mean,
stuff. But
There's a reason that shit doesn't exist in any sort of like hyper available capacity. It's fucking difficult. So I mean, the progress you've made is without any sort of like
I don't know anything.
do more, Tom. Like
Yeah.
I think you figured out a lot, but there's nothing wrong with putting it down for a minute.
And so that stuff will be developed more in wintertime, or I'm gonna get together with those guys.
Something to say too is, I mean, when it comes to bows and crossbows, if you have like a 20-pound draw weight, you're probably gonna be fine no matter what we do. But I would say right now, if you're trying to get to like what's the maximum I can do, if you're gonna do that right now, I would be prepared to accept that when we decide on something, what you're using may not be usable anymore.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, unless you're willing to just play it safe, then I would wait before you get into ranged weapons.
Yeah, I mean that kind of goes with like anybody that's buying weapons and stuff and gear for Vassal. You kind of have to be prepared for anything to be, you know,
X'd off.
Just because we're still developing and we haven't experienced every single maker. You know, there might be weapons out there that we wouldn't consider safe for what we're going to do, you know, until we see like combat with like a lot of like, I don't know, like wyvern swords and stuff. Like, I'm not sure which wyverns are going to accept and not accept. There's a lot of play testing we have to do with a lot of different gear, and we just haven't done it yet. So it's going to be a minute.
Yeah.
But
the other thing to consider with bow draw weights, and I got more into this recently because I got more into actual archery during COVID. The draw weight doesn't always equal the force that's coming out of the bow, because like a 40-pound longbow shoots way differently than a 40-pound recurve.
Really? Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nick was telling me about that. But yeah, Merrick, yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Is it's kind of like, if unless you're just going to do something that will obviously be safe enough no matter what we do, if you're kind of looking for that max tier, like unless you're okay with spending money on something you won't end up being able to use, then I'd just wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's plenty that can be developed in the meantime that isn't something in limbo.
Right.
If that makes sense.
That's like, and I feel like a lot of people get excited to get like weapons and armor, and a lot of people do that before they even have like a single outfit put together, let alone like some more like wardrobe.
Yeah, you absolutely need more outfits, I would say,
or some like basic like camp stuff, like silverware, plates, like just basic gear that you would need to, like, one of the things I'm going to start doing is, like, I do have projects in mind. Like, I want to make this like leather armor that looks like Terrace Bulba, but that's not going to be something I do right away, because I see Ingvar as somebody who, once he heads out west, he's probably going to be like living off the land and sleeping outside, which is good because Milos is my friend and Josh has a lot of experience with that. Yep. And I'm probably going to be getting like a medieval, like camping, like light travel. Like I could put it on my back and go like that's going to be my setup. But yeah, even with like LARP guns, Merrick, like I would love to get like, I would love to commission like that red antlerless guy to make me a badass wheel lock. But it's like, I don't know how hard those shoot. I don't know if they're like too much. I don't know if they're too little. I don't know.
Hard.
Like,
I feel like they're one of they, at least with distance, they look like one of the hardest shooting ones.
And it's like, I don't know if we're going to be doing that. So I don't want to spend like $300 on a gun and not be able to use it for this.
Well, not only that, but I've already talked to him, and like, there's no way those are going to get through customs.
I thought the actual transportation of them was like the issue.
Yeah, I talked to him
the legalities,
and I just kind of stalemated it. Like, I was like, "Can you send it all to me in parts, and then I'll put it together?" And he's like, "Yeah, but it'll still look like a demanufactured firearm." So it's
like, I'm almost like, if you can't tell the fucking difference between an actual gun and a fake one, why are you the guy checking for guns?
Right. But then again, if you were to if you were to fly there and bring it back in your checked bag, not your carry-on, but your checked bag, that's fine.
So what you're saying is Vassal trip over there
to just stock up on fucking LARP guns.
Just send one person,
smuggle them home.
Yeah.
One person with 8 duffel bags.
But no, I don't do commissions, because I still haven't made like a tried and true, durable anything yet, so
Yeah.
I don't even have one for myself. But yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say something, but I forgot.
I guess I'll ask too before we get too far from that video. I want to ask you the same kind of stuff I asked Rob for his video. Is there like a thought with like what Franz is doing in that video? Is there like a story being told here? Is he just surveying? Is he checking for anything in particular, or like is he on the road for some reason? Like what's happening in that video, or is that literally just to like display like kit and stuff?
Pretty much the latter.
Pretty much the latter, yeah.
Because we had done, that was actually a photo shoot. And then like literally, because we did the photo shoot, we were gonna go see Green Knight after. And we had like 15 minutes left. And I was like, Nick, let me just quick get some video clips and like, let me see if I can put a video together. Because, you know, like Josh was doing it, Rob was doing it. And I was like, I want to get into this, but I hadn't tried it yet. So I was like, let me just take some shots, you like walking back and forth, and I'm just going to see if I can put something together. So I mean, there's no like real story to it, but we kind of just put it off as like Franz is like out like surveying like nearby. You know, there was like that big wooden fence things. We were like, oh, it kind of looks like it's some sort of like palisade fortification or something.
Sure.
You know, we did like the ominous ending of like, is there somebody in the woods?
Based
like,
on like kind of like what you
whatever.
just shared about like what Franz would do for Dimitri.
It's something he'd be doing.
I was gonna say this
Yeah.
now it's kind of scary that like Franz is almost kind of like this like assassin dude.
He's like RoboCop.
He's
Yeah,
kind of like,
like-
because we really based a lot of like, I think, well, not yet because we have to fill positions, but Dimitri's court is going to be very based on like Crusader kings. So it'll be like, we'll have somebody who's like the diplomat, and then somebody who's like the marshal, and somebody who's like steward, like head of like taxes and construction. And we kind of said like Franz is kind of like the spy master.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's the one who's trying to like discover plots and figure out like who's trying to do what in the shadows. And then it's like, if he has to, like, he's the guy who gets dirty and like goes and puts those people down pretty much.
Hell yeah. Merrick's asking if we're talking about Justin Andrews, and we're not. Red Antilus and Justin Andrews are not the same person, but they're both in that group.
Yeah,
And they both post a lot. They're both in that Larp Handgunners group. What else we got going on?
We've had the video looping this whole time, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Okay,
on
so
and
I
off.
have my Zoom like over the Twitch, so I don't see that it's streamed. But
And I mean, I know that me and Nick have briefly talked about it, but I mean, and it's like a long time coming. We're gonna have to like make time here soon. But like we had even talked about trying to like link our stories to a degree, or just linking me
That'd
to
be
that
cool.
area to begin
Aren't
with.
you having that conversation with like every single player, Tom?
Tom's like, I want to be in everyone's story.
Kind of.
Tom is the main
everyone knows
character of
Aleska.
Vassal.
Everybody knows Aleska. I've got connections all over.
Well, I mean, I literally would have fought basically on the battlefield of his homeland when I went out there.
Tom's the reason it's a shithole.
I mean, I may not know him, but when I meet him, there should be some kind of basis for story of like, I don't know. I mean, there would have been stories of like
Adwill
foreigners
or
from the
something.
east coming to support Nernick, and like how they were like, why would you do that, or I don't know, something to that degree. But yeah, I mean, I talked to a lot of people about Lincoln stories, but I mean, I'm a well-traveled man. I ride around town all over the place.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
So no.
I mean, that's also kind of the beautiful thing about with us basing this off of like medieval Europe is that is entirely possible there.
Sure.
Because Europe is not big.
Right.
It does not take long to get from one side of Europe to the other. Minus Russia. Minus
What?
Russia.
Oleska is not in the Druzhina, Merrick.
Not
The Druzhina are like it's like a Robin Hood and his merry men kind of deal. It's a fledgling group. You know, it's starting off as pretty much Ingvar, Milos, and two characters that we haven't even introduced yet and aren't going to be there right away. And it's literally just like Ingvar and three of his close friends. Aleska and Ingvar don't really interact until Aleska is the one who convinces Ingvar that he has to leave. Like the trouble that Ingvar is causing is becoming trouble for him as well, and it's best for both of them if he gets out of here. I have friends out west, like find them and they'll help you out, and then eventually Aleska's gonna probably head out and we'll meet up again. Um, we're not necessarily like enemies or anything, but we're also not necessarily friends at the start. Where
We're
that
not as
goes,
chummy. Yeah.
yeah, where that goes, we'll see. But me and Tom are best buds, so it's going to be hard to not role play. Being
I
friends,
know.
probably.
Giving little hugs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like Oleska's a lot deeper into like what I guess you could say like the state. Like he's done things his entire life and kind of went through the hierarchy of like the military and like some business stuff and like he's seen a lot more. He's basically had a more privileged life and has seen a lot more bonuses to just doing what the right thing is for Obervoska.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Ingvar is a bit heavier on like the protest side of he was up in Chernigora Pass, he was in the battle, he was like, what's going on with this? But I mean, he was connected plenty with nobility because he is technically nobility, but we were just kind of on different sides of the spectrum to where the world that he's experiencing is totally different from the world I'm experiencing because Obervoska is so big. And
But you kind of like embraced like your position and your the
it's done
bureaucratic
nothing,
advantage you have.
nothing but good for me, basically.
Yeah. Whereas
Apart
I
from-
like forsook it
Mm-hmm.
and in favor of like I want to be a man of the people. Like none of this serves the people that I actually want to help, and like it just never. And I probably wasn't necessarily helpful in the way that I dealt with that and the way things ended up. But
I mean, the simple terms to put it without this becoming another Ingvar Oleska episode is as Ingvar is like a patriot for Obervoska, where he's always like, we got to stick to what we're supposed to be. Whereas Oleska is more of an ignorant nationalist, where he doesn't understand that a lot of bad things are going on, and he just thinks that Obervoska generally, not that they can't do no wrong, but he's like we're the good guys in his head.
yeah.
You know what I mean? If he would see stuff that was exposed, he might be like, "Whoa, this isn't right." But he's just not even. I don't know. He's just not even aware of that stuff. So
would you say that Aleska then is like in his being well traveled is going to the basically only the big cities, the well off cities?
probably, and a lot of the traveling that he's done has probably been, like errands or missions or something that, you know, the nobility or whatever, or I don't know how that would all work, but basically under the command of the voivoda of Rosnagov, he would probably be doing stuff like that. I mean, sure, he'd probably have like pleasure trips where he'd be like, well, I don't have to do anything, so I'm going to go with my regiment to this area or whatever. But yeah, I don't. I feel like he's pretty well traveled within Obervoska to an extent. But yeah, I would say he's probably only really been to. He's probably only been to as far west as Nurnik. I don't think he's been beyond that. Because like, why would he have to be? But I mean, he's probably been down to Iskara, or at least by the border. But he's probably more well traveled within Obervoska, I would say.
Gotcha.
Eric says that he thinks Svandomir is going to come from a peasant farming background and was conscripted into service at Chernigora. That would work. I mean, you're not the only person that's going to have that be part of their story. You know, almost everybody from Obervoska, especially if they're from the northwest part of it, have some kind of reaction and trauma to Chernigora.
So that's the same thing with Yuri too. Is he's a peasant who was conscripted, and he was really gun ho about it, and then like after it happens is when he's like, "Oh wow, no, that was really fucked up.
That was really bad." Yeah, so
That was really bad, guys.
It'll be a connecting factor, I'm sure, for a lot of people in Obervoska, and I mean that's the device of the event, other than plot for the country. I mean it's kind of like that'll be a lot of connecting, like, oh, I was there. So when you meet someone, you could be like, oh man, you were there, and like you could talk about it and all that stuff. But yeah, I want there to be connections with at least some kind of residual, we don't have to say hatred, but some kind of residual, like, I probably don't like you from Pape to Oleska. Even like Sigismund.
Because you would have fought with Nernick.
I would have fought alongside Nernick, yeah, against whoever they were fighting, and whether Franz or Franz family or whoever, they would have. I mean, I don't know. We weren't like these mighty, like, oh, it's the devils of the East or any. But they would know, like, who are these people? These aren't Nernick, Nernickians or whatever, Nernstinians or whatever,
Nerneckians
or whatever they're. So I mean that's just a cool thing. That's just a cool thing. I don't know, to build on. Merrick says, "What does Franz Pape think about Obervoskins?"
I mean, honestly, there probably is some residual, like, I wouldn't say hatred, but pretty much.
Yeah, it's
against
just like
the whole, like,
resentment.
Yeah, resentment would be the better word. Because essentially that battle was all of Franz's family getting slaughtered, essentially. Like, Franz is the last of his line.
I was going to say, and before that too, I mean, there was still conflict.
And there was, because that's the entire thing with Bern, is it's just constantly a battleground.
I was going to say, but like we had said, oh, sorry, Mike. I was just going to say
go ahead, because I was just going to.
Like we had said, though, this part of Franz's story, though, is like over 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Franz, not just the overthrow of his family, but like all the fighting that still happened in the county before that was when he was young. So that's very, one, formative to him, but two, also being younger. I mean, like any of us in real life, we don't know as much about the world as we think we do when we're younger.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I think, would play in very realistically if Franz had a negative opinion, because it's like throughout his whole childhood, these guys just like killed his people and his friends and stuff. It's like, why, if you thought that when you're a teenager, like, why would you grow up thinking that they're good people? Like, I don't know if I want to use the term radicalized. That might be too extreme, but it's like, it would be expected that he wouldn't.
Well, even understanding or learning the things that he would learn in his adult life, and logically be like, they were just doing their service, or logically being like, I understand military stuff, but still just like in the heart of it, like, I still don't like you though. You know what I mean? Like,
pretty much. And that's kind of the other thing that I have going with Franz in terms of like my head in development anyway is, I don't think he's well traveled. I don't think he has like a well-developed opinion of places outside of Kersenstrath. Because basically his entire adult life is securing Dimitri's power. So like he probably knows everything that's going on in Ostrenburg, probably knows a lot of what's going on in Vinderberg and like the other counties in Ostrenburg, or in Kersenstrand. But outside of Kersenstrand, besides his initial biases from when he was young, nothing.
Yeah, because like when would he have the time? Like you said, like it's a constant state of chaos. Like you can't be like, I'm gonna go on vacation up to the mountains in Nordenmark, and like you wouldn't do that anyways, but so it's interesting tying everybody together, and that's kind of what we're doing. I mean, without it being like a stretch or being like totally unrealistic, like that's what we're doing at this early stage. Instead of like having 20 people that it's like, oh, there's no way we would know each other, and then the first event we all show up like, yes, hello. Yes, hello. This is my backstory.
Just a million handshakes.
Yes, hello.
It's nothing but introductions.
It's like, what if you're watching a TV show and the first episode, it was just a bunch of people that came from all these different areas, that it would suck. So, I mean, there's got to be turmoil.
I love the idea in my head of like Ingvar and what few Druzhina he's mustered up, kind of reaching out to Dimitri for like, I know you need help securing your place, in this country, and I can do that for you. And then Franz being over your shoulder being like, don't fucking trust these Eastern bastards.
Yeah.
Like they're no good. Like I love that.
Coin.
And it's like just that association. Like even it's like Ingvar had nothing to do with any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But like it would be I love shit like that. Like that'd be good. I think it's gonna facilitate a lot of really good role play.
And one of the things that I always thought like what our first event would be is just like our two groups meeting on the road, just like what's going to happen?
It's gonna have to be that, I think, because I feel like whatever site we end up using isn't gonna have any buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
and I
it'd
mean,
be
even
something like that.
even looking at like a game that's pretty similar to what I think we're gonna be doing, Melius, their event space, I don't see any sort of like structures or buildings. I think there's like some kind of small wooden gate or something that I see in the background sometimes, but it looks like most of what they do just takes place in the woods. So I think they're doing something pretty similar to that too. So I don't think that's far off to
Yeah. I feel like
assume
if
that's what
somebody
we're gonna end up
challenged
with.
me to make sense of what the first event could be, I feel like I could easily pack it up to be like Ingvar goes out west, sits there for a little bit, for reasons unknown to Ingvar. Maybe Oleska's even coming back out, orders from, maybe he got in a scuffle or an argument with someone because I didn't catch you, and they're like, go back out and get him. But I know in my head, like, I can't do that. So, like, maybe when I'm coming out there to do that, something happens to us, we have to escape Nurnik and go further west. So then we're in between Nurnik and the rest of Kurzenstrad, basically. And then maybe that's where we meet them on the road.
I love the idea of Oleska sending Ingvar to Nurnik and being like, I have old friends there, like you'll be fine. And then we get associated with Nurnik even further in that way, and that puts us at odds against Kurzenstrad, and I think that's really cool. I think that's really fucking cool.
So to where we can meet you guys and be like, they're like, well, Nurnik hired you guys, and they're like, Nurnik just tried to kill us. Like we're not, we're not affiliated with them. And now we're stranded out here.
We need to do like a little short film of like the conversation that Ingvar and Oleska have when like Oleska runs into Ingvar and is like, you got to get out of here. And like when Ingvar decides to do it and finally walks away, it like kind of pans out, and then like from a couple yards away, there's like lurking in the bush, like just somebody, and they just like leave. So it's like somebody saw you talking to me.
Yeah.
And they go tell somebody that's important. And Merrick says, I'm so happy I invested in a canvas periodish tent. Do a decent number of people already have interested in Vassal have period tents? I have like a canvas Viking A-frame that I'm never going to use again because it doesn't actually work. I like made it. It's impossible to waterproof. I've tried treating it a million times. It just doesn't work. So I am planning on being like an outside camper. I'm going to probably collab with Josh on like making a little camp that me and him can share. And whether we actually use tents or not, or just like a fucking one of those like just basic like canvas tarps that we tie up to some trees and sleep under it. Like I'm down to rough it for the sake of like this is what Ingvar would be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not gonna go get an Airbnb. Like I'm gonna be Ingvar for the weekend, and
the Airbnb days are over.
The game. If I go to a DAG event, I'll get an Airbnb. Hell, if I go to Beekling again, I might get an Airbnb. But Vassal's gonna be like real for me. I'm gonna try my best to just 24 hours. Like I am in character doing things my character would do.
I think it helps with role play too, because I mean, you're like immersed.
Right.
Like if you didn't sleep good, like Ingvar didn't sleep good either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it wouldn't. It would only. He's a. I don't know. He's like on the road. He's in exile. He's roughing it. So that's what I want to do. I want to be, and I know Josh already camps all the time, so he's gonna be all about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So hell yeah. Wild Sage says he's working on a period tent. I mean, that's the thing too, is that if people can't manage to get a period campsite together, and if we can't offer period looking places for people to sleep, we're not going to like tell you can't bring your modern tent. We're just going to have to set aside an area where all the modern tents will be.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not necessarily be like split up depending on the room we have by group. It might just be like, this is a big spot for all the people with modern tents, just so that they're out of like eyesight of where we're actually like playing the game, which I mean, every LARP does that. So it's fine.
I'll probably end up reinvesting into getting a canvas, because I sold my old one to Josh. I don't know if Josh still has it, but I would definitely probably get a different one. So we'll see. But as it gets closer, I mean, probably after this winter, I'm gonna start looking around.
Yeah, I mean, that's why too. It's like I'm looking into things that aren't necessarily just like a tent. Like I'm down to like do the like basic like bedroll under a canvas tarp, like tied up to.
You should look up some of the period Cossack tents and how they like improvised a lot of that stuff, because that's really interesting. I mean, it's real small, but I mean,
fuck it. And that's like I'm trying to be super minimal. Like I'm gonna literally make like one, like the kit that I've been showing in like pictures and like that what I'm wearing in the overboard video is like not even what I have like envisioned. It's literally just like what I already have from doing Roost stuff for the last
Mhm.
couple of years. Like none of that is like stuff I got to be a Cossack.
Right.
So I'm still like coming up with like what I want Ingvar's actual kit to be, and it's gonna literally be like one kit, and it's just the clothes he has with him because he left. Like he doesn't
Right.
have a wardrobe with him. I don't have like a closet full of stuff to wear. Merrick says they got a crazy deal on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace about 4 years ago that for a 10 by 10 pyramid tent, the guy is asking for 150 through in a wood framed canvas cot too. Almost felt bad but happily paid for it. I mean,
That's
it sounds like
awesome.
you're
That's
gonna
a-
be big fucking pimping
Yeah.
with a 10 by 10 tent. That's fucking awesome. I mean, even if we ended up in a position where Ingvar has like 4 or 5 Druzhina, we would all be collaborating together to like, what's our camp gonna be? You know, it's not like I wouldn't want to do it just like on an individual. Everybody bring a tent, you know, like it would be easier to do like let's do like a community thing, and it would make sense as like a group of, you know, like brigands traveling on the road, you know. Um so yeah, like we could use it as like a community tent for the Druzhina if you wanted to do something like that.
Well, even if you think about it too, like say we ran into different people, like say we ran into, you know, the Curzon lads on the road, you know, being on the road is dangerous for everybody. So I mean, there could be a lot of even like role play in, you know, like you approaching Dimitri or me or anyone being like, look, like you're strangers to us, but we mean no harm. Can we all group up together? You know, and I'll give you my, you know, I'd be like, oh, I'm nobility from out west. Like I give you my word as a noble that I won't, you know, or anything like that, to where it's like groups don't necessarily have to always be, especially if it's a smaller event, you don't always have to be like pushed to your separate groups,
Right.
because it's kind of like and that's the whole thing about Vassal too. It's like the Empire fell, you know, 20 odd years ago. Everyone's kind of still in disarray. I don't even know if like beyond
50,
these personal reasons, no one's really like, you're our enemies, beyond
Right.
people that are fighting in Kurzenstrad
Well, yeah,
and
people-
outside. But
People are reasonable.
but to be like, I want to live,
Yeah.
and I'm not looking to make enemies or like getting in a fight necessarily.
Yeah.
There could be tension and
Well,
like
by
constant
design
paranoia.
too, none of the factions, when I say factions, I mean like the overarching, like, you know, little player factions can do whatever. But the big countries, no one's at war with each other at the start of the game.
Right.
And that was intentional because ideally every place will get to a point that players will be in the positions of power, and then it is up to players who's going to go to war with who for what reasons. And so it's like we kind of almost needed to start with that blank slate,
Yeah.
which I think helps too in the beginning, because, you know, we've talked about this a million times, but it's like we can't get 15 people in a field and be like, this is a big battle.
There's a
because it's
fucking
not.
fight happening.
Like, yeah. So
That
it's like
makes
in the
sense.
beginning with the numbers we have, like there's no reason to feel like war has to be happening. You know? So-
I like the idea of Ingvar and what Druzhina he has, and maybe Alezka if Lezka's already there, and just by association, like it's almost like the party in the Mummy movies, and Alezka is like the brother. That's kind of like it's the what's her name's brother, and he's kind of
like the
goofy.
spaz.
Yeah, but it's like that's what I think. He's like this noble guy that's like roughing it with these like folksy
Right.
people. Like I love that. And like we kind of like there's this stigma in the West because a decade ago a bunch of a troop of Obervoskins assisted Nurnik on the field. You know, like that. You know, to non-Nurnik folk in Kurzenstrad, like there's like that sort of stigma and resentment towards Eastern folk. So like it's almost like, well, we got to be careful while we're out here, because like if we run into people who aren't from Nurnik,
wrong
like
people.
they might not be so trusting right away or at all. They might even be violent. So like we have to be careful. So that's why our meeting will be cool, because while we are all reasonable people that want to survive and probably want to avoid a fight at all costs, there will still be that tension, because we can't change the past and we can't change who we are and where we're from and what we care about. So it'll be cool that we probably don't have to fight unless a certain conversation happens and people get all uppity about it. But it'll just be like that. That'll probably be the first event. Is just these two groups like crossing paths, and like it could be as simple as like while we're traveling, like if you guys are resting here just simply down the road, like might be safer for all of us to just share a camp. And then it kind of just like it's almost like the Hateful Eight situation. All these strangers end up in a cabin together, and it's like everybody's like something weird's going on here,
like
smashing guitars and shit. It'll be great.
I could even see like the four of us getting in these like really tense negotiations of like, like what are you guys doing out here, and then us trying to describe like, hey, we kind of got chased out. Or he got chased out. I kind of.
But you think Ingvar is going to want to talk about how he murdered somebody in Obervosken?
Well, I guess I would. I was going to say friends. I would probably try to talk to Dimitri.
Do you know how funny it would be if we never talked about this and we got to the first event and like Aleska literally just started talking about it? I would have literally just covered your mouth and been like, "We're traveling."
Look.
Hey guys, we're on the run because my buddy here just murdered a man.
Yeah, so
killed
it's like
some high-ranking official that
we're gonna have things to hide. I mean, people who are characters in the West who might have contacts with Obervoskins might find out about that. Like, I mean,
that's true. We are on thin ice like the whole time.
Yeah, so it's like that. I mean, that's like going to be like the entire attention of Ingvar's existence in the West is like, I don't want the wrong people to find out what I've done. I don't want the wrong people to try to take advantage of that situation and either like capture me and bring me back there or kill me and try to collect some kind of reward or
that's what I was
favor with somebody. Like I fucking pray that somebody makes like a super like imperialist, like nationalist Obervosken character that's literally just like, I'm a bounty hunter looking for Ingvar.
I was gonna say somebody playing a bounty hunter. We talk so much about mercenaries, but we never talk about bounty hunters.
I want to. I want some.
That's like a really.
It's gonna be somebody from Binderberg, and I'm already pissed about it.
It's gonna be Reginald.
I would love.
It's gonna be Reginald, and he's gonna
planking
win.
Up in his armor.
He's
now.
bigger than me.
I'm taking you.
I would love to see somebody come out from the East that is like super deep state, that is like, I'm gonna find Ingvar for my sense of pride, and then that'd be cool if they knew me and I didn't like them to begin with, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that person's really like, you gotta watch out for them. But to try to just like, just to see some like bad Obervosken character,
it'll be cool.
Yeah.
I would love that. I mean, where are these Byzantine people going to fit in that we might have coming in? I won't say names.
We want to talk about that?
I mean,
I've been busy with lore, and I keep on the Discord. I'm like, who wants to talk about it? And nobody. Every night, Tom's like, I got D&D. I can't do it. But no, I've been hard at work at that. I just have not ever been able to share it yet.
I mean, now's as good a time as ever.
I'm free after this.
Else. Here's. I mean, I'll do it right now on the show. Like, whatever. We got like another like half hour, 45 minutes.
At least.
Yeah.
We can get deeper into it. For when we
the only other thing I can think of that I want to do on this show is bitch about ugly swords. So I don't know, like, what do you guys do? You guys want to just do that, or do you want to talk about the game?
Well, let's talk about the game because I feel like there's still a little bit more we can say about that before we then we can dump on swords at the end or something.
So,
all right,
just a interlude here. Speaking of like the first meeting and all that stuff, do we want to go over any of the stuff that Rob and I found out about that potential site we went to?
Let's do that. So not only talk about the site, but I like talking on this show about experience at other LARPs. And that's true.
We went to another LARP to go to this site. It wasn't just going to the site.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start prefacing these because it does always turn into a dump fest because it's not like our expectations. But like, we don't just shit on other LARPs. Like we already know that, and like when we go to other events around here, we know they are not what we want out of LARP. Mm-hmm. We go there pretty much at this point to like check out sites and see if if parts of people's games are cool things that we would like to implement into our own, and just kind of network with people and like see friends that might be there. Because I mean, isn't the big reason you guys went is because the person that runs the game is going to be in Vassal?
Yep.
Yep.
So it's like
Yeah,
it's
so-
just like a friendly fucking thing to do with people. So just
Yeah.
I want to preface that before we start talking about how
Well,
it's
it's
like
the whole
not a
LARP
gaming
USA
event.
Exactly.
network thing. Yeah.
So go Rob and Nick and tell us about.
So
what
we
game you
went to a LARP. It's called Amodin Vale of the Afflicted. It's ran by my friend Corby, who's in chat sometimes. I think at the moment, looking at my admin
Corby.
thing here, I don't think he's here right now, but he is on the Vassal Discord. He's the guy who wants to be the baker.
Which is great. I want more people that want to do mundane shit in Vassal.
Yeah, which is awesome. And I think we've mentioned on the show before, there used to be a game called Canarak that was really big in Indiana. And kind of towards, I think, like its last few years, he really stepped up as like one of their like big like influences maybe. But when the game ended in 2020, he made this new game with basically like his Canarak crowd. So like when I went, I recognized a lot of the people because I'm like, they were at Canarak. And it's like a really high fantasy LARP, you know, like orcs, elves, dragons, magic, all that stuff. So very, again, like not really what I'm after. But I believe in like, it's good to do other things. Like, even if it's not something I'm super into, because it's still a good experience to see how other people do things, to meet other people, to network. Part of the reason I wanted to go was just because Corby's a great guy and I wanted to go support his game, because we're trying to make a game, and now coming out of 2020, I feel like LARP needs to, you know, stand together now more than ever. So we went, had a good time. I really liked it. The quest line they were doing that day was pretty interesting. There was a lot of like moral and ethical debate involved, which me and Nick didn't really have a stake in because we had just shown up. But it was like
that was the part that I enjoyed the most there, though, is they were getting into this very, very ethical thing of, do we attack our allies to get the pieces of a thing that we need? And they were like, oh, just because you guys are new here, don't think your opinions are any less valid. Rob and I are playing soldiers, and we're like, yeah, let's go kill them.
Right, yeah, we're soldiers. What do you
Straight
think
up,
our opinions?
Yeah, let's go.
It's like, we can attack them. What do you guys think? Attack them. But it was a great time.
I mean,
really well done game.
What was the plot, and how did you guys fit in? And then was it like Canarak in the way where like did they kind of like walk everybody around in a group and kind of like play IRL D&D?
Yeah, the way I describe it is like it's a D&D LARP.
Okay.
It's very like they have the quest already planned out. There's like people who like, this is the scene and this is what you're walking into, and you see this and this, and like, you know, it's very like scripted in that way. And the quest line was basically this veil that everybody's in, and of course like all the races are different factions. Everybody was like trying to get certain resources, and every group kind of had like a patron. I guess they were like kind of like gods, but like nobody really knew that fact. And so it was basically just ended up being this like conflict for like, it was like the end. We came in at literally, it's the end of the story arc. So I'm missing a lot here, but it was like the big finale, like some group is going to do something, and like whatever they decide could affect like they're attacking everybody else in the process, kind of a thing.
And where kind of the interesting thing with the moles and the ethics were fitting in was that the patron or the heralds of each faction were pushing that faction towards war with the other factions.
Yeah, they were trying to start something.
They were actively trying to start war with the other factions.
Cool.
Yeah, so it was really up to the players if like they had too much of a conscience that they weren't going to go along with it. Which a lot of them didn't want to. And then they asked me and Nick what we thought. And we were like, well, sometimes you just got to kill some people.
Where's the fight?
What I know.
We're here to fight. But again, it was really nice, really well ran. It was their first year doing this game. So considering that too, I think they did a great job.
How'd fighting work?
So the fighting, it was like you're calling out how much damage you do, like 3.
You have HP and stuff.
Yeah, and I think me and Nick had like 10 HP. Thankfully, people like casted spells on us to give us more HP because we would have been totally toast. Because we have like no HP.
The way their system works as well, if we had actually wanted to put on all of our armor, which it was really hot that day, so we didn't, would have like boosted our HP by like 30 points or something.
I remember
we would have like tripled our health.
I saw Sean Young in a bar one time because we went to high school together, and he was talking to me about Canarak, and it was like right after I went to Beakeline, and I showed him a picture of my armor and like my gambeson chain, lamb, and helmet and everything. And he was like, "Yeah, dude, if you were wearing all that, you'd have like 16 extra points of like on top of like a HP, whatever." And I'm just like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, you could just totally just show up and tank people out." And it's like, as long as you don't get hit anyways. Like, and I was like, "That's ridiculous, but awesome."
That's what we relied on, was just not getting hit in the first place.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing I actually felt really bad about with when Rob and I were fighting the others, is because we're level 1 characters, we do like no damage. But
like if people fought us, it took forever.
Rob and I are way better fighters than anyone there.
Yeah.
So it's just a case of it just took so long to actually get
just
anything
these
done.
long tanky fights, and it's like, I'm sorry that you gotta like fight me for 5 minutes because I just don't do enough damage.
It's hard to like not fight the way you fight after playing like a technical boffer game for a decade. Because I remember a time where like you two both know Eric Scannendor.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's the guy that like got the people in my area into Dagger here, and we would like practice with Belagarthers and like try hard, super hard, and like get really good. And then we would like go to events I can't remember what the realm was called, but in like Brazil, Indiana. And it would all be like super new people who like are hosting their first event, and it's like more so like a glorified practice. And they would like end up putting me and Eric on one side and like the entire event on the other, because me and Eric were just using like 2x3 shields and flails and just like fucking everyone up. It was like playing like a horde mode in a video game. And me and him were just tearing through people, and like it was like you don't know how to like not do it. So like I always like have that thing of like I worried about it going to Beakeline, and then I found out people fight very similarly at Beakeline. It's like it's not as technical, and there's not as many tryhards. They are there though, and like you can see them, and I just went and fought those people. Like, and whenever I did like come up on a group of people who I could tell aren't like trying very hard, like, and I just know that I can bop you with the flat of my sword on top of your head, and I'm gonna get it, and you're not gonna block it. Like, I would not fucking wallop them on the top of the head.
No.
I would give them a tap on top of the head, and it's like you just know you're gonna get it. But then you always see on like the sides of big battles at Biko, there's a bunch of skirmishers, and they're fighting just like Dagger here and Belagarth with headshots. And those are the people I went to fight the most, just because I'm like, this is the only place I know I'm not going to make anybody upset, and like I don't have to hold back. I don't have to hold back over here. Like I could fight exactly how I fight, all the moves that I know work and stuff.
That's actually one of the things that Rob and I did when we went this time was we sparred with each other before we did any fighting with any of them, adjusting to lightest touch.
Yeah,
like adjusting to their
system, so we didn't just roll in,
accidentally blast someone.
People,
like this is what I do at my house. And you...
I remember like I can dial it down for the people that I think I need to do it for. But I remember like one time me and Tom like were waiting for a fight to start, and we started sparring. Like he took his Bavis and like wore it on his forearm, and I just had like a little round shield. And like we were like essentially fighting as hard as we would if we had dagger here swords. And I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the oaths where we're like, whoa, like you guys are hitting each other really hard. And it's like, I don't know, this is just what we do.
Yeah. That was my last LARP injury, was you hit me in the knuckle.
Yep. You're welcome.
It was never the same. No, I'm just kidding, that's sealed up.
I was like, these gloves are great.
Life-changing.
But yeah, I mean, I fought swordboard a lot when I first started, and I don't know like a lot of moves, but I feel like I retained my like strike speed. So I always just put a lot into like just trying to be real fast. But
yeah. Some swords that we have won't let us do that. Like I feel like I can fight like that with that epic armory sword, and a little bit like the Freihand sword is almost too like handle heavy, and I feel like I can be fast, but I can't hit very hard, which is fine because most LARPs don't want you to anyways. But like those Rugi sabers, you can't fight with them like dagger swords.
No,
like
you have to literally fight with it like a real sword to be.
You have to swing those like a sword, and that's why I love those.
Yeah,
I'm
the
glad
constant
I got
momentum. The constant momentum. You know, you really gotta.
Yeah,
I love
sweet.
it.
Merrick had two big things I want to catch up on. You planning on doing an outing to Kanar near Ann Arbor? I know there's a lot of people interested in Vassal that LARP there. If it worked with my schedule, I would definitely make an effort to come come out for the same event as Vassal folks. Super mathy HP system is super confusing and just invite people accidentally forgetting what their current HP is. Yeah, I imagine that happens a lot. Yeah, we're like pretty buddy with Kerrigan and Marcus that go to Kanar. I've never been to one. I don't know if anybody's checked it out. I don't even know how like their game works. I don't know what kind of LARP it's like. But we've met people at Beakling that do it. I don't know. I've never even seen like pictures of what the game really looks like or anything. So like, I don't know. I'd have to look into it. I don't know enough about KNR to give an answer on whether or not I'd go. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there'd be people there I know and people I'd like to see, but if it's a game I'd like to play, I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if we mustered up a lot of people that were excited that could make a weekend work or something, I would go.
Yeah, it's like why not? Yeah, it's like why not? Even if it's just to go hang out and be dressed up,
just to go to an event.
Period. Yeah, exactly.
I really would like to get into LARPs that there's enough happening outside of combat where you can still be LARPing without having to fight. Because sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to swing a sword right now.
Yeah. Like, which happened a lot at the game me and Nick went to. I mean, we had a handful of people who like we were just, off to the side, chilling in our little like camp, and they'd come up to us and just like engage us in stuff. And it was pretty cool. It was nice that a lot of people at that game were like very into being in character.
Yeah, I like that.
Which was probably that was probably the thing that I liked most about being there was like you could tell everyone else that was there really wanted to be there.
Yeah, it was like nobody was there who was like too cool to role play or like people were into it.
I mean, that's an attitude
with that.
I mean, even if I just went to that just to do that, I would love that because I mean that's the attitude I want for Vassal. I don't want anybody ever feeling like I don't know, like if people think there's too much role play happening or like if people are like, oh, there's all this like pressure for me to be in character all the time. I almost want to be like, I mean, you can go take a break, but I want a crowd of people who just always want to be in character and like want to do it, and I'm not saying
something that they did. And this was an old discussion. For people listening, there's no official rule on this yet. But we had talked before too about it almost being a system of like, let's say like me and Nick are hanging out together. Like we can break character and just, shoot the shit.
Oh yeah.
But if somebody approaches us in character, then it's expected that we respond in character unless we like signal that we're taking a break kind of a thing.
That's pretty much exactly what I want, Vassal.
Well, I was going to say that's what they did because that would happen. You'd hear people in the distance like they're talking about whatever, and then you come up and it's like, hello, travel. Like they were just immediately backing character.
And that's a consent
and it worked.
Too. Yeah,
it works. It absolutely worked. So that was really cool to see. Which I mean, that's like how K-Narc was and stuff too. So I've seen that work before, but it was cool to just kind of have that experience again that reaffirmed like this is a way you can do it. That
yeah,
I mean, it was like that at Biko to an extent too, where you could see people turn it on.
Yeah,
at certain
like
points.
when it's time or like when they run into somebody. Yeah, it'd be. I've always had the vision in my head like when me and the Druzhina are like hanging out in our camp, we're making Tim and Eric references and all the bullshit that we always do. And then, but if somebody approached to like interact with us, it'd be like, all right, we're in character now, and I just want everybody to kind of like know when to turn that on, but yeah, that's kind of the expectation I have for Vassal and what I'd like to be. The only reason I say is because you said you were checking out other group systems to see what you like and don't like and get ideas for Vassal. Also, the trick is to not play a character so different from yourself that is a strain to stay in character most of the time. Also, just don't talk about out of game stuff except in private, as you're saying. Yeah, exactly. I do think Kanara is something that we'll probably try to check out. We have enough friends there, and it's like a big enough Midwest LARP that we probably should. I would say that it's probably something we're going to do at some point. Maybe we can even have Marcus and Kerrigan on and talk about it and see if like there's a way we could fit in with whoever they are there, just so we have an easy and like we know who we are once we get there or what we're trying to do.
The site. So
yeah, how is
the site? One, really awesome. None of those pictures did it justice.
Yeah,
because we went in with kind of like, I don't say like low expectations, but we were kind of already prepared to like not be blown away by this place.
Right.
And then we got there, we were, because it was awesome. We were like, holy crap, like we were not expecting this. You go, Nick.
Probably the coolest thing about the site to me is that there are a lot of trails that led to different clearings. So
Mhm.
it is extremely possible to have people camped in different sections of this site and to actually have a travel time, traveling different
You would
paths
go through
to get
trails
there.
and stuff.
Yeah, like
tight.
it would require commitment for you to actually go travel and check on somebody or go,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
try to spy on somebody or
Which
Or
whatever.
like
also
the road
leads
may
to
not be
the
safe.
That too.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It also
You
leads to
could
the fun RP of
absolutely
being
set up like highwaymen stuff.
highwaymen.
I there's a thing too where like I think about this all the time where I'm like, the first Vassal event, the Druzhina don't have to show up right away. Ingvar does not have to be there right away. I almost would prefer if we had more set up and in stone with what is happening in Kurzenstrad
Mhm.
before I did get out that far and my cronies did. And I know that well, I'm probably willing to be like, I'll just NPC as somebody who already lives there until I'm ready for Ingvar to show up. I don't want to have to like leave people hanging that are like, well, why the fuck am I here then? Yeah, I'm still going to play my Obervoska character, but that's something I'd like to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean,
'Cause I
even if
don't-
you're laying low and not doing anything story related, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it's not gonna be like a TV show where like the camera zooms in on you, like what's Ingvar doing? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like you
Yeah.
could just be you're just another spectator in the crowd of people that are just going about their day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, that site was awesome. And then there was also, it's all around like a huge, like, I don't know if lake is the right term,
Pond.
but like a giant pond. And there was a huge field for like fighting. Even if people like camped in like the four corners of the field, like you'd be pretty far from each other. It was a really
I do
big
like that a
field.
lot. I mean, did people take advantage of that in that way for that LARP? Did people?
Oh
like,
no, there wasn't
No.
nearly enough people.
No.
Oh.
But then I was gonna say is that then they had kind of like I don't know if gazebo might be the right word, like an outdoor pavilion that mostly had like wooden tables and chairs. There was like one like iron bench, but it was like painted brown, so like it wasn't even like an eyesore necessarily.
Yeah,
And we
the
were like,
really
that'd
cool
be a
thing about
great
that-
public space.
Yeah, the really cool thing about that gazebo is with very little effort, maybe like some cloth walls or something like that.
You could dress it up.
You could one, dress it up, and two, make it so you can't see any of the modern facilities behind the gazebo.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's where you're getting close to the modern building, which one has a lot in it. I mean, that's a good like build
Even, like-
modern facility to have.
Yeah, so we're talking about like having the different tents and all that fun stuff. That building has two separate bunk rooms that I believe total beds in each bunk room was about 12, would you say, Rob? 12,
Yeah,
14, something
12
like
or
that.
14. Yeah.
It had a fully stocked kitchen, modern bathroom facilities. Like it's not going out into outhouses like
Yeah,
normal.
ridiculous. Yeah, outhouse or anything.
And then it also had this sitting area with a fireplace.
Wow.
Yeah, so we
the
were even
modern
talking-
facility was even really decent because that could easily be a
Out
hey,
of
you don't want to be in
character.
character,
Mhm.
go hang out there.
Yeah, for sure. But like we were saying, the site is so big, it is very easy to just get to any of the shit we just explained, and you can't see that building anymore.
Yeah, like one of the trails we followed,
Even the
we
big
came-
field. Once you're halfway through the big field, you can't see that building anymore.
Yep, and like one of the trails we followed, we just randomly came across a bridge.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
a really
sweet
cool
wooden
looking
bridge.
bridge.
Where like it'd be such a sweet spot to have like a little battle or something.
I love the idea of just like not planning too much and just like here's this big space, like go play pretend.
Yeah,
like-
Merrick, no, dude, you could have like 10 different scenes here going on and you wouldn't even be within earshot of each other.
Yeah, we're not. I don't want to do
Um,
that the like NPC theater thing where it's like everybody gather around. We're gonna do a thing. Everybody's got to know what's going
Mhm.
on. Like it's
Definitely not gonna be us.
Yeah.
that's not Vassal for sure.
we're not. Yeah.
The bad part, the site is owned by a college who, I don't know, Nick, are they like a Christian college? Are they? Is that why they hold these views they do?
They're very liberal. They
So-
are a very, very liberal college.
Okay, maybe that was it. But basically, it boils down to hitting each other with swords and axes is okay, but they don't like things that shoot. So there's no archery, and I'm sure no guns. So that's something we would either one have to sway them, or two, we would have to accept that whatever event we hold there is like we'll just have to say it rained the night before and your powder got wet, so you can't use your gun. Like,
Sure.
because that's the one drawback, which I'm like, that is such a ridiculous, like, you're okay with people coming out here with like swords that look
Like,
real and hitting
this?
each other.
You
Yeah,
know,
but I
like
can't
this?
bring like my little Nerf gun.
I mean, if it's something that we're looking into where it's like we really want to find a place that we can kind of call home for our game, maybe we can talk to them about that and be like, hey, this is part of our game, and like we want to use the site, we like it a lot, but like we want to talk to you about this projectile thing. Like we literally shoot these little fucking lacking in any sort of density or mass, like yellow balls at each other. Like, is it? I mean, that my thing too is it's like it's not a safety concern for them. It's just kind of like a no guns thing, and it's just like
It's more of like a weird like ethical thing. Like that's
like
I
we're
don't even
not
think
we're,
it's safety. It's
we're a
like,
goddamn like we're a 21 and up organization. We're not children. We're not. There's no impressions to be fucking made. We already. It's too late. We grew up on the fucking Matrix and shit. Like
Mhm.
we like guns. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like
over.
we
think
either
shooting
have
stuff is
to
cool.
hope they can be swayed, or if they're that staunch on it, then it's like either we don't use it, or it's just got to be for events where we're just
Yeah.
like, hey, leave your guns and crossbows at home, because sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple things where that site would be extremely good for, like any sort of celebration.
Like a
Events,
festival. Yeah.
like a
We're
festival
gonna do
would
like
be
a
phenomenal
festival
there.
event. It'd be perfect.
Tournaments would be phenomenal there. I
Wouldn't be able to do an archery tournament. So.
would not be able to do an archery tournament.
I mean, yeah, in that vein, if it was a celebration event, we could just be like, maybe you have to like leave your firearm at the door. Like swords are fine for tournaments, but
Oh,
they
it
don't
could
want
be like
people-
it's a town where like it's like Thunderdome when like they take all your firearms at the gate.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of role play elements I'm sure we could mix in. I wouldn't want to take a site that's like beautiful and awesome otherwise and be like, I can't shoot this thing, and then us not go. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's workarounds.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying let's not use the site, but I'm definitely
Yeah.
saying let's try to reason with them. American, I think that's Zach Main. Both want to know what town where
I'm looking for the town right now, but it was owned by Manchester.
It's Manchester University is who owns it, and I think it's
Indiana, right?
it's Indiana. It geographically speaking, it's like an hour south of
it's
South Bend and
Pierceton.
in between. Pierceton, that's right.
Pierceton, Indiana.
Okay.
Or if you look up Warsaw, because that's like the next biggest town.
There's a really great brewery
It's probably like 20 minutes from Warsaw.
in Warsaw. There's a great brewery called Hop Lore, and we did a collaboration with them, the brewery I work with, and that fucking place is so cool. And the inside is like really cool, like all wood finished, and like when I went there to do the collab with them, I was like, God, this would be such a cool place to like do like an indoor it looks close enough to like a dining hall kind of thing. Like it would look really cool to like do like an event inside there. I talked to him a little bit about it. He was like kind of into it. And he was like, "What the hell is LARP?" And
I just want to fully garb up and then stand in front of the sign that says Warsaw. Just because it's from
Yeah, it's
Warsaw,
also the town's called
Poland.
Warsaw.
Yeah, I'm like, that's tight.
But yeah, so I mean, it was a sweet site. It's got that one weird thing about it. We'd have to figure that out.
It's not even like the biggest deal, but it would be very cool to kind of like talk to him about it and be like, listen.
Yeah.
And then from a like running the event perspective, the site is not expensive to rent out,
It's dirt
like
cheap.
even remotely.
I like that.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
if
I
we
mean-
did a full day, we could have like 7 people show up and it'd be paid off.
It sounds like it would be a very good spot to use. So they didn't do camping or anything at this event.
No, they did.
They
Oh,
did,
they did?
but I think literally everybody stayed inside that building. I don't know if anybody like pitched a tent.
I mean, it
I mean,
could
that's
even
cool though.
it could even be cool because I mean, this is the thing too. We're not writing what happens or what the setting is or what the situation is of this first event until we have a site, because it's going to be based on what the site is and what facilities the site has and what we have to work with as a geographical, like what are we working with here as a like a map. So I mean, if we're supposed to be in in Kurzenstrad, and there is this building that has bunks, it only makes sense that it's some sort of stronghold or something, and that you guys would either have access to it or whatever. So it wouldn't be too far off that it's like it's some kind of Kurzenstrad stronghold. You guys have, we kind of show up like seeking shelter, or like you run into us on the road and find us, and like maybe it's like, oh well, like it's hell out there, like if you guys want you can stay in the barracks, and this it's just a guard stronghold, like a watch post essentially. Like it would be cool to set it up just like that, and that's how we end up all just staying in this place together.
I mean, I really don't hate the idea of setting up a cool tent and stuff for like where I'm staying, and then at night if I really want to I can just go sleep in a real bed. It's like it's like an on-site Airbnb.
Yeah. Like have your tent for like aesthetic, and
and then come out in the morning,
but you're
like,
not actually gonna sleep there.
I mean, I could, but if it like
so
rains, or if I'm just like I don't,
Yeah, Zach, they also had used the word pacifist, which is why I was like, I don't know what their background is, but yeah, it's like a weird. So I'm like, I don't get why you're okay with people pretending to have maces, bashing each other's brains out, but like, you put the line at
it's
bows.
Just ranged
like I don't get that.
Yeah, we're not actually hurting each other.
And then Merrick, I have no idea if we can have ground fires. That's something that we need to talk to the side about.
That'd be a thing too, and like torches and stuff, and lanterns, glass lanterns and stuff. Yeah, but that's all stuff we got to figure out, because like there's been so many like games where it's like I feel like at Beak Lane just nobody cares. Like you just walk. Like I don't think you can have flame lanterns or like torches.
And no one was like walking around with like a blazing torch.
Yeah, people would make like those like battery candle lanterns and carry those around and stuff. Obviously at DAG you couldn't have like a torch, or like you could have like tiki torches in your camp, but you couldn't have like stuff like that.
I mean, if someone walked up with a convincing lantern with an electric candle inside, I wouldn't be like, come on. I'd be like, okay.
They look.
That's
fine.
what I do.
Yeah, I'd be like, all right, because they make the flickering ones. You could glaze the glass.
Yeah, they look fine.
I'm willing to compromise on that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
so
that's our LARP trip.
That's
info
tight.
dump.
I would say that's some pretty solid reconnaissance, and we should try to find out more about that site.
Yeah,
cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, I did take a picture of their contact information, because they had that posted on.
Yeah, they had a sign at the front.
So,
yeah.
And I mean, there's been whisperings pretty soon here, when all the stars align, we should try to do another Fort Wayne trip.
Yep.
Visit Casa de
Go
Rob.
to Two Toms.
The Two Toms, yeah, that's our new hangout.
We were making, we did have murmurings about trying to make that kind of more of a regular thing. We can make it work. So
yeah,
I think we should.
And then we can have some tomlets.
And we can make some tomlets in the morning.
Put me to work to be like, these suck, dude. And I'm like, I like them.
All right, what else we got? You guys want to look at those swords or not? I'm just gonna get mad.
As I said, we can do swords, or I was down to just spit ideas about first event happenings. But
let's spit some ideas first, because actually,
talk about the Byzantine thing. We didn't even
do that, because my Streamlabs is frozen again, so I cannot transition to any pictures.
Okay,
so
great. We're stuck with what we got for a minute.
We're stuck here. We're alive until we die.
So I did two places I've been. Well, three, I guess, because I had to do a little bit of Viscara because of this.
Oh, God, that hurts.
So I did a really bare bones for the people in the Discord. The Obervoska and Kurzenstrad versions of these are out. They're in like full detail.
I love that
next Google Drive. And I did Viscara. It's pretty bare bones compared to the others, but there is information. There's a pretty good biography. I brought up, there's only like 2 or 3, but like we got to know who like the rulers are, because that's like important for the rest of the world. So I made a couple characters. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with like Leonet. Like there's a certain amount of that has to already be decided at the start of the game. It can't be total like we'll come up with it later or players do whatever. So there's a little bit of basic Iskara for anybody who wants to get into that. But I did the region that's basically like Hungary, Croatia, Romania, Serbia, which I called Stravania because I had made a setting like that before. So I just used that name again.
We need a Vania.
Vania, exactly. I figured for as much as Hungarian stuff as Obervoska has, you don't have a Vania. So
I mean, I think we just share parallels with Hungary. You know, we don't really have any super like specific Hungary.
Well, I was gonna say what I was really getting into though. So that one I did pretty much in full. I think the only thing I didn't get into was religion. One, because I hate making religions, and two, this is something for leadership to discuss later. But there should also probably come a point where like some places have the same religions. Sure. I think realistically, like every place having like their own crazy different, like that doesn't make sense. You know, like religions don't have borders. Like people everywhere will believe certain things.
I mean, I guess
so I didn't do religion.
We'd have to look at history and like what makes sense as far as like where people went, migrated to, conquered. You know, like because that's how religion gets around anyways. So
yeah,
however that goes.
Religion's a blank for it, but pretty much everything else is done. Because I have a character that I really would like to play from there. So I took a special interest in that. And a lot of it is really based on like the 15th century, like John Hunyadi, Matthias Corvinus, like the Black Army stuff. Which again, though, fits really nice with Kurzenstrad because that parallels with the time period we're based off of for the Holy Roman Empire. Specifically Austria, because that's when you get into Habsburg rule, and they were the ones who had to deal with Matthias Corvinus and his Black Army and all of that. So that was kind of a nice parallel that unintentionally the stars aligned. But how I wrote it, though, is that they will start off in the game as a vassal of Iskara. So they are not like an independent kingdom.
Okay.
And then the way I also envisioned it was that the Byzantine place would be in a very similar scenario. Now, of course, when like actual players sprout up there, they could decide on day one, like, all right, we're rebelling, like time to be independent. So it's like, who knows how long that'll last.
Yeah.
But I felt like particularly in the beginning too, where like player numbers will probably be pretty low there, or at least any sort of like factional organization. It made sense that maybe like from the broader political spectrum, there's like not as much autonomy there because it's kind of then like one less thing we have to worry about for the moment.
It'd be cool.
And we need people who are vassal states. I mean, literally our name is vassals. So
it would be really cool too if like maybe they came under that agreement during the long rule of the empire as part of an agreement with Iskara. And then now that the empire's fallen, they're kind of like, hey, come on, like.
I was gonna say I wrote a decent bit about it.
Okay.
And it's definitely left in a place that again, like players could pretty much decide whatever they want to do with it once they start. It's like not like you're like locked into it and like, well, you got to play that you're the vassal of this place for 5 years. Like that's not going to be the scenario. But I also thought too, though, it made sense because it also strengthens the idea of how powerful Iskara has. And to me, leaning into that Iskara is really supposed to be like the Turks and the Ottomans specifically. I thought it would be cool to start with like kind of that Ottoman overlordship right off the bat. That, you know, it's kind of like to use like the historical side of it. It'd almost be like if we were starting historical LARP where like Constantinople has already fallen. Like that's where it's starting. So I liked that you have these places that are already under their control. And they're like these huge functioning states, but they're not autonomous.
Right. And that adds something unique too, because there's really no places like that. Like
and that's the other thing I was going to say. Yeah, we have no other places in the game that function like that yet. Yeah. So it's another, because you might get people who are just interested in that element of the story. That it's like, oh, it'd be cool to be in this place that's like under the control of someone else.
Yeah, and then it would be cool too to like we could have our own like Obervoska could have our own specific relations with that place, but but they're heavily tied to Ascara. So it's kind of like we could have our, there's, oh my gosh, the coolest thing about doing that stuff is there's so many little stories that can be made and relationships that can be made and all that history and the events that take place. It's like I'm interested to see characters or players make characters for those places.
Yeah. So that was something I was really like, I had settled on that angle that they would be vassal states, and I was like, I really want to stick with that.
Well done.
So yeah, and then the name, I was floating around for the Byzantine place, and this might just be a real life translation, but I like the Kingdom of Constantia. I don't know if that's like one of the old timey names for Constantinople or something, but it's not like we haven't ripped off historical names already. So
No, I mean, that's been the whole gimmick the whole time.
I don't give a fuck. That's pretty much where I'm at.
No, that's the bit.
There's
It's like Ostrenburg. You don't think that's super original?
No, yeah, it's always been geographically and culturally, Vassal is a historical parody.
Yeah.
It's like another dimension.
It's when it comes to religion and actual historical events that it is our own story. It is our own, like that's where it comes up to creativity rather than amalgamating everything together and turning it into.
We just want the aesthetic and the feeling.
Yes.
But beyond that,
and same to me, at least, part of that is having names that sound.
It's part of that
genuine to their area.
I shared this with you guys the other day. Historical accuracy versus authenticity. Vassal, I feel like I wanted to answer that person that I saw post that with like, I'm actually creating a game that I feel is historically authentic but not historically accurate, because we are kind of making up our own world and telling our own story, but everything we're doing aesthetically and I don't know how else to really describe it, just everything's influenced by history. And that's kind of how I realized that, like, the weird thing that we're doing where it's like we want you to be inspired and influenced by history but not just straight up be something from history. You still have to make it your own. I think the thing that we're doing is that we're not historically accurate, we're just authentic.
That's funny too that you say that, because in the very early origins of the group that I was in DAG, that you were in as well, Astro or Jordy was basically like said the same exact thing. Like, we don't want to be historically accurate. We want to be historically authentic. And, like, that's kind of like how a lot of the...
It's a good distinction to make.
A lot of the kit and everything, to where it's like, it looks like somebody would wear it. It has the silhouette and the style and, like, the practicality of the garments and all this type of stuff. And, like, you could totally see it happening. It's not fantastical and, like, things that don't make sense. But it's like, it's something just totally different.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. That's how I always describe The Witcher with like all of their armor.
So
like, it's not historically accurate. Like, they wear things in different arrangements or different pieces that may have not really gone together, but it's historically authentic and it looks like it's believable.
I do still stand by my point that I make all the time that, like, that world is absolutely that, but Witchers are anime characters that do not belong there.
Who just, exist in that historically authentic world.
And none of that ever fucking makes sense to me when I look at it. I'm just like, what are you doing here? Like, don't you belong somewhere else? Like, I don't know. Like, the Witcher world to me is so cool and lush and rich, and then Witchers are there, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this? And like, even like the monsters too that go with that. Like, I just want this to be like a political historical fantasy rather than like, here's this thing that is obviously very interlaced with historical influence, but there's also these, like, I don't know, like, white-haired cat-eye wizards
but at the same time though,
who are really acrobatic.
I want to say though that at least for Witcher 3, I mean, I played Witcher 2 as well, but like in any of the games or media that we've seen that tries to mix historical Europe with monsters, I still think it's one of the ones that I'm like, this is the coolest one. Like, you know what I mean?
I'd say they do. Because, I mean, God, I can't think of anything else that does that I'm like, this is so sweet. Because, I mean, like, I think Thrones is still too far off to be, like, historically inspired. I do think there's themes that they borrow, but, like, there's too much that's just like far off where I don't see it as much as I see it in Witcher.
Yeah, I've never seen anything that
The
is
books are a
fantasy-based
lot closer.
So
The
tied
books are,
in.
yeah, I
So
would say
way closer.
the books are way more. But I'd say Witcher does it probably the best, and I still don't love it.
Right.
So I mean, but I can't deny that they're probably doing the best version of it.
But yeah, so made those 2 places. Would love to discuss it in more depth with you guys later.
Absolutely.
But to finally have some information, especially because the Byzantine stuff, we've been asked so many times about that. And again, that was one that I'm very content to make like a skeleton outline and then
let them fill in the blanks.
Yeah. Because it sounds like I won't mention names yet, but it sounds like we may actually have a group coming in to do that. So not just being an individual, but actually being a group that's probably going to be some form of faction together. That is a scenario where I would like to hand the reins off to them.
I mean, and the idea of them being like later period, like Eastern Empire, like that's cool.
Yeah, be a good.
So I feel like
to add to the game,
especially because if we like sort of interlace that with them being sort of like we can find ways to either connect their history just so that there's enough of that Byzantine parallel. We could try to connect their history to being like connected with the old empire that fell, you know, and they might kind of have a holdover in the same way that the Lyonnais still exists in the West, like this still exists in the East. And maybe they have an entire different way they feel about being the old empire, being the former empire. You know, I don't know. There's a lot that we could do. I don't want to do too much of it without those guys who are interested in doing it, though.
Yeah, that's why I didn't go like full steam ahead on that yet.
Yeah,
I mean, did the Hungry place.
I'm excited about it because I think just by, just because of where they are on the map, where they would be, there would definitely be some kind of history or interaction with Obravoska. So
it's somebody you would have interacted with for sure.
Pretty cool. Because I mean, I'm looking for the people who are going to be like in the way that Ingvar is kind of a rebel and Oleska kind of gets caught up in that, even though he's more of like I'm proud to be Obravoska. What do you mean Obravoska is like corrupt, whatever? Like I want to see the people who are like well aware of that and are trying to uphold that and are loyal to that. Like I want to see the people that are proud, aware Obravoskans that are trying to like, protect it as it is and protect the nobility of it and serve that nobility. Like and like obviously like I want them to be like strelets, like redcoat soldiers, like I just don't know who's going to do it, but I want to see people play those like culturally. Do we think aesthetically and practically Vassal will accept matchlock, wheellock, and flintlock looking Larp firearms? I don't think we're going to be like sticklers about
the design or
like
what type.
I would say those, but aesthetically those 3 are the ones that I would say we would want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want people with like I'm trying to think like, I think it's pretty easy to figure out which ones would be fine.
Yeah.
I think like if we were being really sticklers about it, like the best thing would be matchlock because that's the earliest. But
for the West, at least.
Yeah, for the West. And then in the East, because the main inspo for our area is with fire and sword and everybody's got wheel locks. And I think some people even have flintlocks in it. I can't remember. Or I think in Terrace Bulba they have wheel locks in that too.
I think the Cossacks have like a flintlock situation.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen both.
Because I'm pretty sure. But
yeah, I don't know. I would never be like, you got to have this kind. Like it has to look like this with those. I think whatever flintlock, wheellock, matchlock are the 3 that would work.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick tangent. It's always surprising to me how common matchlock became because they had a tendency to just blow up in the user's hands. There's like pretty common.
Lots
like
of failure.
Out of every 5 times too. Like,
I love it.
The LARP ones will do that too, I'm sure.
We're all gonna die. Yeah.
They're just gonna fall apart though. There's not gonna be like crazy or anything. There's no explosion. It just breaks. So what else? If we can't get much deeper into that kind of stuff, do you guys want to look at those
we're
swords?
close to our 2-hour mark, so yeah.
I mean, we
You
could
guys wanna-
dump. We could dump real quick.
Let's dump for 10 minutes. I just need to get it out.
All right, hold on. You're just bogged down. You got the dump.
Yeah.
I thought I just had the sword.
Go ahead and dump. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right
All
back.
right.
Hopefully the
He's
show doesn't end before.
Rob's got to do a different kind of dump.
He's got to get it out.
So I mean, start wherever you want to start. There's only two. But
What were the two?
So one was Wyverncraft put out a like one-handed saber looking katana looking thing. And I didn't specify my frustration with it, but
Okay, it's on screen now.
All right. So that blade is fucking fine. And I'm sitting here wishing that people would take those blades, which are fine. They are on a straight core, but they are shaped and made in a way so that it gives the impression or the suggestion of a slight curve, which is great and fine. I want just like, like make Shaskas, make Polish sabers, make Carabellas, like, so you have that, which is 75% of that weapon. And for some reason, what they decide to put as a handle on that is this like unfinished thing. Yeah, like
it's like an antler.
I don't get it. I'm sure a lot of people think that's cool and like really neat, and now they want it for their kit or whatever. Like maybe they're like a wood elf and that fits really well, or maybe they're like some kind of foresty ranger type and that like looks really cool. But this is a company who's almost exclusively done historical looking swords, and they finally do something else with because they do make like Napoleonic cavalry sabers, which are just like too late looking for me to use in my kit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop people from using them because I know like Justin Rippey has one. I'm not going to stop people from using those, but for me personally, I'm like, yeah, it looks too late, period. I don't want to use it. But they take that cavalry saber blade, which I wish they would just put an older 15th century looking handle on it with a guard, and instead they put this like antler branch looking thing.
Oh, that's disgusting.
And I'm just like, why do you do that? I'm sorry. And like, we're friends with people that work for this company, but I'm just like, who the fuck's asking for these? I'm sure somebody is.
Well, my question is like, or not question, but my comparison is these types of things in LARP to me are like what we all laughed about when Nick was telling his LARP story about like wearing all the black armor or the black tunic. It's like all the vendors sell those things, and it gives a beginner an idea that like, oh, this is what I'm looking for. But it's kind of like you're flooding the market with stuff that once the player kind of gets to a point where they're like they know better, they're going to want to get rid of it. And like this may not be totally that in the harshest way, but I just want to be like, I don't know how else to say it, but like this to me is not a good idea.
No. I mean, for all we know, this is a custom piece that somebody asked for.
Sure.
But they posted that picture with zero context. So my only assumption that you would take all these photos for it is that you're going to start producing these things. And my thing is that like every single fucking thing they put out is a historical looking weapon. Why all of a sudden is this what you do with your saber blades when you could do anything else? You
but
could
also
put,
like what is it? Like
it's an antler handle saber,
but it's got this like disc hilt, which is very, very reminiscent of like almost like a Chinese sword or like
like a dao.
Yeah, it's like a dao with a. But I'm like, again, I've seen like HEMA guys and like I watch was it Scalgrim like sword people that will like review actual swords, and they'll be like, man, this sword has like studs in the handle and it's really uncomfortable. And like, so for anyone that actually uses swords, this doesn't even make sense as a handle because it would not feel good to swing around. And I know that maybe they're not even thinking about that, but I'm like, you're literally in the business of making fake swords.
Right.
And like, I'm not a sword nerd. I don't make swords, but that's stuff that I feel like I know that if I would put into my craft, I wouldn't.
Yeah. So I mean, good for people that love this thing, and good for people that are going to get it, and it works for their kits. I'm sure it does. But if like Epic Army put this thing out, I wouldn't even want to talk about it. I wouldn't care. They do plenty of stuff that I think looks like shit, and I don't think about it, and it does not hurt me. This feels fucked up to me because I'm like, oh man, at least we always have Wyverncraft putting out really cool, authentic looking swords, and Fake Steel putting out really cool, authentic looking swords. And now one of those two companies that I felt like I could like kind of depend on in a way to always be working on putting out cool stuff has compromised that. And they've like, I'm looking at this. I don't have any fucking stake in this company. I don't fucking own anything. I don't tell anybody what to do there. This is wasted fucking energy to me.
Right.
That is wasted material to me. I'm sure somebody's going to buy it, but I'm just like, cool. Anybody else could have made that.
In all reality, this sword or this blade is probably a Chinese blade that was already made, and then they just made the handle.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
Because I've seen that blade before. That blade is.
Maybe we just got to get our fucking hands on those, and we could just put whatever handle we want on the.
I know. I've looked it up. You know, I've scoured
to
try to find like who are these like Chinese.
I was
merchants?
like, I already spent 100 hours.
I'm a psycho, which that's another reason I like sometimes have to take a step back, and it's my own fault because I like saturate myself with just like I have to find the answers. But so that's frustrating. What was the other one?
The B3, like
I'm not even gonna stain this. I'm not even gonna stain this cast.
I mean, they're still doing the thing that I bitched about before, where we don't even have to show it. It's an ugly sword with like it's trying to do like an easterny looking saber handle on a blade that is not one-sided. And it's not curved.
They don't know what they're doing. I'm not worried about hurting their feelings.
Yeah, and like the shape of the hilt and the pommel is all just like this super blocky, obviously just like as lazily done as possible, laser etched out shapes and then glued onto a handle wrapped in shitty, probably fake leather. But my thing too is that they make those like beveled, like diamond shaped blades. And then they cover them in like that super light cloth because they're meant to be like.
It's like a weird in between Frankenstein of Boffer and Larp.
They want them to be like super high performance LARP swords. So instead of making the blades covered in some kind of plasti dip latex silicone, what have you, because it would make that heavier, they use cloth cover. And I'm like, that's fine in a game where it's like you're going to beat the fuck out of people and you can replace it easily. They don't have any sort of like way to like replace the cover when it tears or if it slips off, like, and it just looks like shit. Like, it does not look like a sword.
I feel bad for them in a weird way, just because I feel like they got to transition. They got to get out of that.
No, dude, they're like infecting Beacoline. More people from the first year we went had them the next year. I saw more of them. Like we only saw a couple of them that first year, and most of them were the ones just sitting at their booth. And then you would see like one or two on the field, and you'd see a lot of people using them at Troll Ball, which is like a game they play with single sword. You know, it's essentially LARP soccer. And all of a sudden the next year there was way more of them on the field.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck, like they look like shitty boffer weapons. Like they look like way too thin boffer weapons because they're probably on like thin as a golf club graphite cores or maybe carbon cores. And yeah, like the handles are just like either not done at all or like just like very simple as fuck, like just like a black straight cross guard and a pommel that looks like a dagger here pommel, like a cloth cover.
Well, I mean, I've even seen it where it's a handle, a hilt, there's a space, and then the blade.
Yeah, and it looks just like a way too skinny.
It looks like a corn dog. Yeah.
They look ridiculous.
I want to jump in real quick and try to say this in the nicest way possible, because being the person that really dived into like trying to develop our firearms for our LARP blasters for Vassal, a lot of people have brought the B3 pistols and muskets to my attention. And I just kind of want to respectfully and publicly say I decline the interest in hearing about those because I've already looked them up. Nerfers have already done reviews on them, and they're determined to be.
I did buy one a while back and had sent you guys my review on that as well. They're not great.
No, I mean they spent all this time to, get the machines that cut out all the blanks, which that's a start. That's great, but their barrel is PVC. They use, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but I think they use like a stretchy material.
They use a rubber band to keep the barrel in place of the onto the stock.
It's just a spring with literally I think it's like a metal disc or some kind of disc on the end of the spring. When it hits it, it's basically like boing, boing, boing inside of the barrel. It's not for all that effort to see them not go the whole way and actually make it like a relevant Nerf style blaster, because the technology's out there. They didn't. And you see it pop up everywhere. They did the Kickstarter. Everyone's like, hey, have you seen the B3 stuff? Hey, have you seen the B3 stuff? Yes.
Yes,
and I'm not here to slander a company or say don't support them, but like, I'm not even going to mention who it was, but like a famous Nerfer did a review and is basically like, this thing sucks.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have the resources, they have the materials. The only reason that I would criticize this so hard is it's like, hey, just do better, develop your stuff a little bit further. Like, you got the factory, you have the money, like you have this company, like just take it further, and like it could, like, let's see a version 2. But I feel like the B3 pistols and muskets are for a different type of LARP, or it's like a toy, but I don't think it would work for like a game.
And I mean, I'm looking at it too, like, all right, out of the box, it's something that slightly resembles a flintlock firearm, and it will shoot a Nerf rifle ball. The thing is that it does not look like a weapon in the way that a LARP sword looks like a real sword.
Right.
It looks like a toy. And it shoots like shit. It will project a rival ball. It will not do it in any way that I think can be used in a game where you're wearing armor, right, or where you might want to shoot somebody that's farther than 15 feet from you. And that's not even the worst of it, because maybe there's games where those work out perfectly fine, and where the expectation is not super high, and it doesn't matter that they don't look like real guns at all. Knowing now as well how they are constructed and held together and the materials they use, why are you charging $165 for that?
Mm-hmm.
I can go to Walmart and spend $20 and get a Nerf blaster that does over 90 FPS. It doesn't look like a gun either.
I know you said you don't want to disparage or say don't give them your business, but I'm sitting here like, how do people do that?
Right.
That's a lot of fucking money to drop on something that doesn't work that great, doesn't look that good, and honestly isn't that well made.
You're paying for the wood blank.
Sucks.
I feel like.
Fucking sucks.
Honestly, my biggest disappointment with the thing is that the flintlock look-alike is just this cheaply made rubber
the hammer
material. Yeah. For me, it was not worth the price point.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, they should have made the first prototype, shot it, and it had been like, I don't know, this isn't really doing it. But I guess when I look at companies, when they go forward and they do a Kickstarter and a GoFundMe and all this stuff, it just really comes off as like, why'd you do that? Like, to me, it just comes off as this like hungry capitalist, like, we're going to sell these because people are going to be excited to buy them.
It's like, why'd you stop where you did?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why did this stop being improved upon? Like, they just posted a picture of like a whole new stock of the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
And and this is why the B3 conversations come up again, not just because of their shitty swords, but because it got posted in that handgunners group where a lot of people are working on really fucking cool looking guns that shoot fucking plenty hard and plenty far and plenty straight and look really fucking good. And then somebody shares a photo of like, oh, dude, check these out. What about these? And they all look like shit. And it's just a shopping cart full of these shitty B3 guns. I'm sorry.
No,
I don't care. I'll
No,
like
I'm
never
not-
care if I like, because I'm just being like honest.
No, I'm not.
You
I have
know?
I have no issue with you anything you're saying.
Yeah. But and then it also brings up the conversation. It's like, oh, like you guys try and do guns. Like, what about these? And I'm just like, I'm not bothered because I don't expect you to know everything that we talked about and everything we looked into. But like Tom said, we looked into it. I'm a little hurt that you saw those and thought that's what we wanted. You know, like, because I don't, and it makes me feel like, am I being too like much of a stickler, or am I on a high horse when I'm like, those don't look good enough? Because I can't get past it.
Well, I feel like, again, it's kind of like what we said about different LARPs and stuff. And I know when people like say, hey, what about these? They're trying to be helpful. But I guess on my side of things is like, I'm a dum-dum in my room, in my apartment. And I feel like I put more development and care into a prototype that fires better than what they made. And I'm a nobody. So I want to be like, I had the determination to make it work, and I didn't have this big factory. I didn't have these machines that cut down all
without
the
a
wood.
Successful Kickstarter of
I didn't
thousands
do
of
any of
people
that.
backing you up. Yeah.
So I guess I'm just frustrated because it's like, I would like someone, I would like, and this is the basis of, I feel like, this entire discussion with the swords or with anything, is I just want to see people that have the money also have a good idea.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like a waste of time. And it sucks to see.
It's a waste of energy.
In the long run, we went better for LARP as a whole.
Yes.
And that's why it frustrates us when we see the people who have the opportunity, the privilege, and the resources just completely fucking squander it.
Right.
Because they're
That goes
just
with
trying to
anything.
quick cash in.
Yeah,
Just
that goes with
because
anything.
they're
That's
like,
what it
let's
is.
make some money. Let's make these cheap guns. Let's overcharge for them, and let's make a bunch of them.
And I'm not going to name names because they don't deserve the publicity. But even as far as like, there's dickhead groups out there selling garb for $100 for a tunic, and it's not even hemmed. And they're like, well, look at us though. And like, we all know who I'm talking about. But I'm just saying, you're vultures, man. Like you're preying on these people that want to like.
There's groups of people
into
that
this
take
stuff.
that take advantage of kids that are not ready, are not equipped, and are not aware of what they're getting into. But they will take their money just because the kids want to go.
Yep.
And the kids have their parents' money or their own money sometimes, and that's all
It's
they care
really-
about.
It's like grooming. Like you're
It's
It's
definitely
totally
disingenuously
Grooming
taking
you to like
advantage of
bad
somebody.
LARP stuff.
Well, you're like doing it to trick them so they'll give you money to give into the hype, but like what you're giving them isn't even good.
Nope.
And it isn't from a genuine place.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I take what we're saying is we're really trying to come from a genuine place, and we're really trying to develop stuff that is actually fun and has story and immersion.
I know.
And
I know I am.
I'm sweating.
I can't say. I know, dude. I needed to get this out. I don't know. I know.
Yep.
I can't say that I know I look like an angry asshole when I do this. I am an angry asshole.
But it's coming from a place of love, though.
Yes, I want LARP to be amazing. All right. And when people can do it and can make it amazing and they don't, I'm not saying that we suddenly could if we had everything that all these other people have, but I'm saying we would try really fucking hard. Really, really fucking hard. We're trying hard right now. We have nothing. So it's like, it fucks me up when people have everything and they just don't do anything with it.
I mean,
it fucks me up.
Merrick says, I know the owner of B3. He is in my Biko guild, and I think he is not trying to take advantage of people, at least from my experience with them. Maybe they needed more input and expertise on the development of their guns. And I mean, I guess what, apart from all this, as consumers and as LARPers, like, I mean no disrespect to any individual person to the point where I want to be like, I know what you're all about, you're a bad person. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's an overall frustration to be like, I wish this would have been better. And with any product in any genre of any type of fun or anything, before it makes it to market, I mean, at least, I don't know, at least like say like, hey, this is how far it shoots. This is probably what it's more suited for. You know, I don't know. I just wouldn't get one personally.
Yes.
He says, I agree that I generally like the aesthetic of latex or foam injected weapons more than the cloth covered boffer-esque weapons. Yeah,
and my thing too is that it's not the only reason that they bother me so much is because they are being introduced and accepted at Beak Lean.
Well, they're being pushed. The guns and everything are being pushed as like, hey, get these. These are cool. And like I feel like there needs to be more of an honest review of like, I just don't know if they're really that cool. And there's a lot of people that are like, well, they're being sold here. I think I'm just gonna buy them. And it's like, sure,
it's like,
I get it. Like, that dude needs to make money, and he needs a livelihood, and I'm not going to say that someone's not allowed to do that. But I
just don't want to see boffer weapons at Beacon.
I feel, yeah, well, that's the other thing, too, is for us, I think we have a bias because we came from a place that didn't have great garb and had ugly weapons, and then Bico's like, oh, the biggest North American event, and we go.
Yeah.
And to see those little elements...
And now
here's
like
they're trying to trickle in. It's like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, now here's a dude with sports goggles and a tabard over some Under Armour walking around with a B3 bat and like that same epic armory shield everybody uses that round.
The big contradictory thing of Beacoline, I will say, is they push this decorum, and like the atmosphere is really great. Well, they do, but like some of the older weapons that I still saw there, they were literally still using duct tape and couch foam spears there.
So like that's like a rule there is that the only accepted material for like the big halberds and like big long spears.
But they still make them look ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like
now it's we're unleashing the dump. We gotta focus.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. I need to do it.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's good to rant, but I gotta go here, guys.
Yeah, we gotta make this happen. So thank you, Nick, for joining us. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Merrick, thank you for being so involved and present in chat. I do agree that the B3 spear is a lot nicer. There's one in my basement, and I like it a lot. So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I don't know what we're going to be talking about. Maybe we'll have more info on the Byzantine influenced place. I have no idea.
Have some new maps by then.
Yeah,
if Tom ever wants to hang out with me again,
we'll have something.
We'll have some new visual content.
We'll have something. The wheel's always turning, and the factory's always churning, and the boys are always thinking.
We're very close to done with the Nordenmark map too, and that's another place people are like really like show us Nordenmark stuff.
Yeah.
So I think next episode could be
we have potential players for that too.
Visual.
Yeah. Come back and see what we develop next time.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks from today.
Thank you, everybody.
Have